Hello friends, I'm Professor John Gallaugher, and in this lesson I am going to show you how I use the secure and free version of Microsoft CoPilot to create and share an interactive web page. Now, I created this lesson for students and faculty using my Information Systems textbook. This lesson is embedded in the section on the hands-on use of AI, but anyone's welcome to follow along. Now, AI tools are changing very rapidly, so chances are your choice of tools and the quality of tools available to you is way better than what I'm demonstrating here. Feel free to share your own favorites in the comments. But since many universities, including my own, offer a secure version of Copilot Chat, that's what I'm showing here. So vibe coding is this sort of goofy, faddish term, as are many terms in tech, but the idea is that instead of someone needing to know a programming language and write lines of code, anyone can direct AI to build a solution based on a prompt, then work through natural language prompting to refine the code with the help of AI. Now, in my textbook chapter, I point out the risks of vibe coding, including generating poor quality code, difficult to maintain code, insecure solutions, and a whole bunch of other issues. But here, I just want to show you how easy this is and how vibe coding can be a good solution for simple tasks or rapid prototyping. So if you're watching this, you're welcome to open up Copilot and follow along, or follow any other steps that your instructor might have given you. Now, a few other things to know. Know that AI results aren't fixed. You're likely to get results that are different than I do here, so expect that. And another important point about vibe coding, at least at the time that I'm writing this, none of the major AI platforms are able to execute the code they suggest, nor are they able to see the visual results of any interface they create. AI has no eyes, so vibe coding isn't totally automated. You absolutely still need a human involved to evaluate the results for errors and give feedback on anything visual. AI often gets it wrong. Now, just another quick point made in the book, many folks don't want their data and chat sessions shared with AI to be used to train AI. This could create security and privacy risks, so many institutions have agreements with AI companies so that the chat sessions remain private. For Copilot, you know a chat session is going to be private if you see this shield. Google Gemini uses a similar shield to indicate that you've logged in a way that data is not going to be shared, but note that that shield doesn't show up by default. So if your institution makes this available, you've usually got to log in from your school's account. Your instructor or your school's IT services help page probably has more information on this. Don't see the shield? Your data is probably going to be shared. Now with that out of the way, let's get vibing. So the solution I want to create is for that age-old problem, what should we have for dinner? If you're like me, this has probably been a lifelong contentious issue for you, especially if you're trying to decide with roommates or family. So I'm going to vibe out a quick web page that allows someone to enter options for a meal and have the web page come up with a random choice from that list. Now, for context, this is a recording of my first ever vibe coding session with Microsoft CoPilot Chat. Now, I did edit the video and add voiceover after that, but I'd never previously used Copilot for vibe coding. I dove in completely fresh. I didn't look at any tutorials or any instruction pages. You probably should look at those. Now, while I am a programmer and I teach classes on Swift programming to build iPhone apps and CircuitPython to build electronics projects, I don't have any experience with the technologies Copilot uses, including CSS and JavaScript. Years ago in the early days of the web, I've used HTML, but I'm no way an expert in that. So I say, hi, I'm always polite to technology. I was raised by Canadians. Can we vibe code together? I'd like to create a web tool so that my friends and I can settle arguments over what we should have for dinner. I'd like to be able to enter a bunch of potential choices, then have a button where we could have a random choice selected. Now to submit the prompt, I can either press my return key or click this arrow here. You can see there's a prompt that says add content down here. You can drag files in here for AI to consider. And pro tip, if you ever want to enter a new line in your prompts without pressing return, because that's going to submit your prompt, you can press shift return or shift enter. So I'll press return and we'll see what AI comes up with. And it's pretty quick. I paused it here and it shifted my prompt to the upper right hand corner. It's highlighted with blue in the background, so you can always scroll up and take a look at your previous prompts. And in this case, the AI is going to generate 3 pieces of code for me that work together to present our web page. HTML lays out the page, CSS provides the style sheet for the page. This includes things like fonts and other things that impact the look of the page, and JavaScript is the programming language that makes the page interactive. Did I have to know that? No, but it's a good idea for you to interrogate AI and ask it what it's creating for you, what technologies it's using, and what they do. AI can also be a great way to learn about technology if you want to explore more about programming. Now, I've got to say, I was expecting Copilot to render the page in a preview. Claude can do that, so can ChatGPT. There's an icon up here in the JavaScript code that has display options, but previews grayed out. There's a chance by the time you're using this, Microsoft has already upgraded Copilot so it'll do this. So I asked Copilot, is there a way to preview the results that you just created? I'd like to see these results as we interactively build this together. And although interactive preview doesn't seem to be built into the version of CoPilot that I'm using, it gave me instructions on setting up a project folder, creating 3 files for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it told me I could copy the code, paste it in, save each of those files, then view the app by opening a browser and loading the index.html file. So remember, if any of the steps you're given are unclear, you can ask it for a more detailed explanation. You can tell it to describe it to you as somebody that doesn't have any experience. You're in control of the prompts. AI is like your diligent coworker that's going to try its best to solve your problems. I'm using a Mac, but I'm assuming you know how to use this if you're a Windows user. I'm heading over to my desktop. I'm going to create a new folder. And remember, if you don't know any of these steps for Windows or Mac, you can just ask AI to tell you them. So I'm going to call this folder Vibe Code Meal Selector Project. And there are much better tools for creating websites, but I'm not going to use any of those. I'm just going to create 3 text files using the Mac text edit program. For Windows, you can probably use Notepad, but whatever platform you're using, make sure that you save this as plain text. Don't include any font formatting, and also make sure that you use the extension at the end that's given, so don't let it change it to anything like .txt. So in TextEdit, you can do the same thing in Notepad. I'm going to save a new file as index.html, and I goofed that up initially. I'll add the text editor add .txt at the end. We want to make sure that it doesn't add any extensions to the end, so it's named index.html. Then I can scroll up here to the code that's listed as HTML, and there's an icon in the upper right here that'll allow me to copy that, so I'll click it. I see a message, all code copied to the clipboard, head back over to TextEdit, and I'll paste this in my index.html file and save it with a Command S on the Mac. On the Windows, you're probably Control S. Then I'll scroll back down to CoPilot's answer, and it says also create a file called style.css, so I'm going to copy this name, head to my text editor, create a new file saved with that name, style.css, and I'm going to remember this time to make sure that it doesn't change it to .txt. Then I'll create a new file. This one should be called script.js, so I'm going to save it with that name. And it looks like there's a setting in here where I can turn off that adding the .txt at the end. So now I've got these 3 files saved in my project folder. I'll head back to CoPilot, find that CSS code, click the copy button, paste that into style.css, Command S to save. Then do the same for the JavaScript code, copying it, pasting it into script.js, save that too. And CoPilot says I can open this in a browser as index.html, so I'll head up to the File menu in my browser and select Open File. I'll find that project file that I created before, Vibe Code Meal Selector Project, double-click that to open it, find index.html, open that up, and I see a dinner decision tool. It doesn't look like it's going to do everything I wanted, though. Let's see, it says enter your dinner choices, comma separated, then it says pick dinner. I wanted there to be a button that adds the different selections to a list and then randomly pick from that list. So it looks like if I just type in pizza and click on pick dinner, pizza shows up. Let's see, I can enter a list of comma separated values and it will choose a value from that list. So I didn't get what I want, so I'm going to head back and give it another prompt. I'm going to say, okay, this is a good start. I'd like to be able to enter the types of meal one by one. Then I'd like to have a list of meals below the meal entry field. I try to be as specific as possible here now. I'll say each meal item should have a checkbox where I can include that meal for consideration in random meal selection. I say there should be a trash can icon to the meal's right so that I can remove the meal if I don't want it, and the meals that I should add should remain from session to session unless I delete them. Can you do that? Press return. CoPilot says sure and generates some more code for me. And CoPilot edited all 3 files for me, but here's what happens sometimes in vibe coding. So I copied all 3 of these files, pasted each update over the existing code in my text editor, saved each file, very important, you want to make sure you save. Then I returned to the tab showing my code and pressed the refresh. Again, you want to make sure that you refresh any code that you save. And they were clearly changes, but it looks incomplete. And it doesn't work. I see that there's a .js with a greater than symbol in the end. That looks like something's wrong. So I'm going to copy this and tell CoPilot what I'm seeing. So I tell it I think there's a problem. I see and I paste in that JS stuff at the bottom of the screen. And the button add meal doesn't seem to work. Did I make an error or did you change the code? Do what you need to do to get this to work. So this time CoPilot made changes to index.html, but not the CSS or the JavaScript. I copy it, paste it in, save it, and refresh my browser. And hey, it looks like I can add a bunch of different meals, and the Add Meal button works. I can see them added to a list. Now if I click Pick Dinner, no meal is selected. I've got delete icons over here on the right. I don't like the look of them. Oh yeah, and on the left, it's tough to see, but I do have checkboxes, but they're not checked, so I'll check all 3 of them. And hey, if I click Pick Dinner, it's going to pick some different dinners for me randomly. Nice, but let's refine this a little bit more. So I say, okay, great, things are working, but I've got some changes. I'd like the list to be closer together. Right now, if I view on a web page, the checkboxes are way over on the left and the delete is way over on the right. Can we also make the delete button just a trash can icon and not bright red? And is it possible to animate the decision process to add some fun? For example, if I click pick dinner, can we show a slot machine style animation through various possible meals? And also, as I add each meal, can we assume that the option will be checked or considered as a meal option and not unchecked from the start? Thanks. So I'll press return and CoPilot starts thinking, and this is what happens sometimes with AI and with vibe coding. I get a message down here that says something went wrong, please try again later. It doesn't tell me how much later, so I click try again. And it looks like it was able to get some things done this time. It says with these updates, the list items will be closer together. Delete item will be a trash icon without the bright red color. Meals will be checked by default when added, and the decision process will have a fun slot machine style animation. Try these changes and let me know what works. So I'm going to find the files that were changed, make sure that I copy each of those items and paste them over what I've got in my text editor, save each of the files that I've changed, refresh my browser, and it doesn't look like I kept track of the check marks through the last run. It did fix the delete icons. So I'll prompt again. I'm still seeing things spread out with the checks on the left and the deletes on the right. You did get rid of the red around the trash can though. Also, please remember any checks from session to session. Let's see if CoPilot improves things. So it looks like it's got changes in the style and the script file, so I'll change those and save them. Let's refresh our browser. And it's not saving my checkboxes. It looks like the meals are a little bit over to the left, but we still have the checkboxes in the far left and the trash cans in the far right. Let's try to pick dinner. And oh, look at that. We get our animation though, so that's looking kind of cool. Let's prompt again. I say the list is a bit spread out, the animation looks nice, and as a vibe coder, you want to think of yourself as a manager directing things. If you have any insight for the AI, you should share it. Sometimes it doesn't know which part of the problem to consider, so I write here, I'm viewing this on Safari on a Mac. Does it make a difference if I'm using Chrome or another browser? CoPilot chugs away at another solution. So if I scroll up top, it says the browser can sometimes affect the way CSS is rendered, but the issue you're experiencing should be fixable with some minor adjustments to CSS. Let's try a different approach. It gives me some CSS to change, so I'll change this and save the file. And down below it says with these adjustments, the list should be closer together and properly aligned. Try the changes and see if it resolves the issue. And if it still doesn't work, we can explore further adjustments or browser-specific fixes. So I refreshed, I didn't see any improvement, so I opened up Chrome and copied the URL and pasted it in here so I could load my code up in Chrome. So this is interesting. The data that I saved on the different meals is per browser. It's not being passed from browser to browser. That's why I've got no meals in here if I run in Chrome for the first time. So that's an interesting result. Let's add some meals. Now if I add an item, I can see the check mark is a little bit over on the right, but not as far as I want it to be. But I can add meals in Chrome and the animation works. But yeah, I don't get any of that indentation here in Safari. I can delete some of these items, that's working. What if I delete them all and then re-enter items from scratch? And oh, look at this, when I enter them, they're checked by default. That's what I requested, so it's good to see that part's working. So again, as a vibe coder, your job is testing and quality assurance. The AI, at least as of today, can't execute and evaluate the quality of its own code. That's your job. So let me head back and see if I can get some more refinement happening. So I tell CoPilot I'm still seeing things spaced out to the left and right. I tried opening the same file in Chrome, and the left margin was indented a bit on the list, but not much, so try to fix this. And also, is there a way to add some fun tones? Perhaps a tone that sounds when one clicks on an icon to pick a meal, then rapid clicks when the slot machine style animation works, and then a sort of winning or victory tone when the result is presented? CoPilot thinks and gives me some results. Now it does give me an update down here that says that I could use some audio files, but I've got to find those and download them and add them to my folder. I think that's going to be too much work for what I want to do right now, but you can certainly try out things like this on your own later. Let me copy these CSS and JavaScript changes and paste them in. And look at that, it looks like our indentation is working better. Nice. I can add some more cuisines, my selection's working. If I check off an item, it's not considered in the pick dinner options. So I'll head back to Microsoft CoPilot and I'll say this is looking good, but I'd rather not hunt for sounds and download them. But it's good to know this is an option if I want to improve this. But is there any way for you to generate tones programmatically so that I don't need to do any additional setup on my end? CoPilot says absolutely, make some changes. With these updates, the tool will generate tones programmatically using the Web Audio API. You should hear a short click sound during the animation and a victory sound when the result is presented. Try these changes and let me know how it works. Now, most of the time when you go through vibe coding and you see some terms you don't know, you should ask AI for an explanation of them. This might give you some background. Certain tools that you'll use might require a fee. There are APIs for things like getting stock quotes or weather that sometimes require a fee, or they can throttle after you make a certain number of accesses. This isn't the case here, but I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And again, just don't take in results blindly. Consider AI as a partner that does things for you and can also be a mentor that can educate you about technology. Certainly don't assume it's always right. We can see that it's not. But also when you try something new, always take advantage of this as a learning opportunity. You'll be a better manager. So I'll copy these changes. It looks like it's just the JavaScript file that needs to be changed. Save everything, reload our page, and moment of truth. Are we going to hear some sounds? And yes, we do. That's pretty nice. Let's assume nobody wants burgers. We'll try it again. And that is some mellifluousness. So back over to CoPilot, I'll do one more change. I'll say this is great, but instead of calling it dinner decision, I'd like to say something like meal decider. After changing that, how can I post this online so that I can share it with others? Assume I have no experience with tech, and I want to do this as simply as possible so that I can share it with an instructor and classmates. So CoPilot made that name change. I'm going to copy this from HTML, paste it into the browser, refresh. Things are looking good. And I suggest you go through a little bit of user testing here just to make sure that everything looks good. And I really like the functionality. So knowing nothing about these technologies and spending less time than I would watching a White Lotus episode, I've got a meal decider. So now let's head back and see what CoPilot said about posting this online. So it says to share your project, you can use a free service like GitHub Pages and hear the simple step-by-step guide. Now, if you've not heard of GitHub before, it's a firm also owned by Microsoft, and it's the world's largest software repository, like a huge software library. It's a place where you can save software projects. You can also explore code that others have put there and made it available to the public. It is possible to hide your projects privately, but you can make your projects available there, and let me tell you, if you have a GitHub account on your resume with example projects like the one we're creating here, even if you're a non-technical graduate, employers will look positively on this because you'll seem tech savvy. When a hiring manager looks at two potential hires and they see one that's tech savvy and one that isn't, the tech savvy one gets the job. Now, most organizations use GitHub for what's called version control. That's saving versions of their software. GitHub is also a collaboration tool. It makes it easy to coordinate software development across teams of engineers, and Microsoft is increasingly building AI into this service. So in the interest of sharing your creation with the world and improving your personal tech skills and tech portfolio, let's giddy up with GitHub. So I'll do this very quickly, but I'm going to follow these steps step by step. These instructions are pretty clear. It says create a GitHub account if you don't already have one. It doesn't give you the URL, but that's just github.com. And then it says create a new repository. A GitHub repository, sometimes called a repo, is just a place where you store a given software project. So go to your GitHub profile, click on repositories, click the new button to create a repository, then name your repository like a meal decider and set it to public, and click create repository. So I'll open up another browser and I'll head over to github.com. It might look a little different, but in the upper right, there's a sign up button. Click that and sign up. Fill out what you need. Again, your screen might look a little bit different, but in the upper right-hand corner, there's probably a little icon for your profile. If you just signed up, you might not have an avatar in there, but that's okay. Now, when you click that menu, you'll see a bunch of different options in here, and click the one that says Your Repository. Now, because I am a software developer, I've got lots of repos in here, but it's okay if you got nothing. Let's add one. We're going to go in the upper right-hand corner where there's that green New button and click that bad boy. Right up top, you should see a slot in there that asks you for a repository name. I'm going to paste in meal-decider, which I copied from CoPilot. If you want to share this with others, make sure that public is clicked. It's a good idea to add a little description in here, a web-based tool to avoid arguments on which meal to make or order. It's already set as public. I'm going to click the Add README file in here. Now you can go back and add to this later on if you'd like. This is usually a description if anybody comes across this repo and wants to see what you built. I'll often describe what the project is like in here, maybe give some information on how to use it, and this is also a really good place to put in some screenshots. Everything else is good, so I'm going to click Create Repository. So I'll head back to CoPilot for more step-by-step instructions. Then this tells me to upload my files. Those are all 3 files that I created, the index, the styles, and the script JSS. And also click on commit to save these to the repository. So back to GitHub, I'll click the add file button. It's just to the left of the green code button, and select upload files. I can either drag the files over, or I can click on this link here and navigate to the files that I want to add. I'll find that vibe code meal, select a project folder, and select each of those index, script, and style files. Click open to upload them. There they are, and then down below where it says commit changes, you could put in some comments, but I'm just going to click the commit changes button. And hey, I'm brought back to the repo, and we can see we've got the 3 files now uploaded to GitHub. Cool. Next, to allow other people to see this, we go to Enable GitHub Pages. So we're going to go to the Settings tab of the repository, scroll down to the Pages section, and under Source, select the branch that we want to use. It's usually main or master. It'll be main for us. And then click Save. And then to access the project, we just use this URL, which is your GitHub username.github.io. Note the .io in there, not .com. It's a little bit different. That's where pages are served from. / and if you named it meal-decider, it's meal-decider. And you can share that URL with your instructor, your classmates, your parents, the world. Because, my friend, you just vibe coded a project. Let us complete the challenge. Back to GitHub. Click the Settings tab, find Pages, it's over here on the left. GitHub Pages are a special feature of GitHub that allows you to create and host websites directly from your GitHub repository. Those are the ones with the .io in the name instead of .com, which is where your repo is stored. Now under this section that says branch, it currently says none. Click that and select main. It's possible to have different versions of a project in here, but the one that we want to show is just our main project. That's the only version we have. So we've selected main. We're going to click on save. And friends, we should be good to go. Let's head back to CoPilot. You should have a working URL that looks like this one if you named your repo meal-decider. Why don't we try it out? Let's highlight this URL, copy it, open a new tab. I'm in a different browser here. I'm going to paste in that URL, but before I press return, I'm going to change the username to my username. It's Gallaugher. Everything else is the same. I'm going to press return. Now, when I press return, I don't see any of my old meals in here, but I'm not expecting to because this is a new project stored in a new place. So let's add some meals. The fam is clamoring. The roommates are getting ornery. Somebody says they want burgers. Another wants sweet green. Another wants sushi. Another wants Korean. Another wants Mexican. How do we solve the argument? Go to the meal decider. Click pick dinner. Oh, and sweet green wins. Eat healthy, my friends. Somebody else shows up and says, I want pizza. Let's try again. Korean wins. Bibimbap. So there we go. Nice work. Thanks, CoPilot. Remember, your results might be entirely different because AI comes up with different results with each iteration. I wouldn't be surprised if your experience is much smoother than mine and offers lots more options. But I hope you enjoyed our little trip down the Vibe Coding River. And if you build something cool, share it with me on the socials. If you are inclined to build iOS apps in Swift, or if you want to use Python to build electronics projects, I've got lots of lessons on those as well. My very best to your classmates and your instructor. Keep hacking and keep learning big.